Hello, everyone. To quote Elizabeth Taylor, it is bad enough that people are dying of AIDS, but no one should die of ignorance. Today, I will be talking about HIV, or human immunodeficiency virus. This virus causes the illness known as AIDS, or acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. I decided to talk about HIV and AIDS because I learned about them in my Human Disease and Society class, which is taught by Professor Merkel. He's the source of most of my information today, in fact. And when I learned about this disease in his class, it really struck a chord with me personally because many people had to die from it before it was even acknowledged as a problem, and I think that's really a shame. So I want to spread awareness for this cause. Because even today it is turned into a huge epidemic. Over 3 million people die every single year of AIDS. There are 13,000 new infections every single day, which leads to a global total of over 42 million people being infected with AIDS. So looking back to the early 1980s when all of this began, there were several homosexual men who contracted very rare types of cancer. And the chances of them getting these cancers was like 1 in a million, but it was happening to multiple people at the same time. So there was no way it could have been a coincidence. And this led scientists to realize that there was a link between these men, and the link was HIV. So, because it only affected the gay community at first, the media ignored it, the president wouldn't talk about it, they were just letting people die and not funding research towards curing it at all. And this was when they also thought it was only sexually transmitted, which is why only gay people could get it, supposedly. And then it was discovered that it could also be transmitted through blood. But places like the Red Cross and other blood donation centers didn't want to pay to do HIV testing for their donors, so they let them donate blood anyways and didn't know which blood was safe, which blood was tainted, and they ended up giving some of the tainted blood to people who needed blood transfusions, also infecting them with AIDS without their knowledge. This led to the spread of AIDS and the widespread problem that we know today. Part of the reason why it was so difficult back in the day for them to research AIDS and HIV is because we don't know where the virus originated. It just seemed to spring up out of nowhere. And actually there are two different forms of HIV, HIV-1 and HIV-2. And they both came from monkeys. There's a disease called simian immunodeficiency virus, and HIV-1 came from chimps, and HIV-2 came from Sooty mangabes, which is just another type of monkey. And HIV-2 is specifically found in Western Africa, whereas HIV-1 is found globally. There are several different theories as to how and why the virus transmitted from monkeys to people, and the most widely accepted one is that back in the day people would hunt and eat monkeys for food, and that gave the virus enough chances at transferring over to humans to successfully develop into AIDS. And the virus itself does not cause any side effects, it just leads to the person contracting AIDS. And so there's a specific point of when you are exposed to the HIV virus and when you actually develop AIDS, and the cutoff for that is having less than 200 T helper cells. And what a T helper cell is part of the very critical immune system that alerts you, if there's something wrong, if you need to send antibodies somewhere to fight off other infections. So it leads to your immune system being very weakened, which is part of the reason it's called an immunodeficiency virus. And this can lead to you being able to contract, for example, the rare types of cancers that those men originally contracted. And as I said before, we know that HIV is transmitted through blood and sexual contact, but it also can be transmitted through drug use. 36% of all AIDS cases in the U.S. currently are transmitted through drug use, specifically infected needles. And there's another unfortunate way it can be transmitted, which is from mother to child. But fortunately, there is solutions moving forward because there are people who are actually completely resistant to AIDS. They cannot catch it no matter what. So this actually is very interesting, the source of this mutation that allows these people not to catch AIDS, and that leads back to the bubonic plague. These people have a mutation called the Delta 32 mutation, which means their white blood cells are lacking a protein called CCR5. And the HIV virus and the bubonic plague both need CCR5 to be able to get access to the white blood cell, and when they can't do that, they can't infect you. So these people in the bubonic plague were able to survive because they had this mutation, and they passed the mutation down to their ancestors who are living today, and those are the people who cannot develop AIDS. So there are about 1% of Caucasians who cannot contract AIDS at all, and there's 10 to 14% that resist the virus. So hopefully this can lead to more research and a cure in the future. I believe that spreading awareness and reducing the stigma around the disease will benefit everyone involved and prevent this from becoming even more of an epidemic than it already is. I hope you've enjoyed listening. Thank you for your time, and goodbye.